So, since Civil War II is screwing Marvel over in sales and in readers just completely leaving the company, and because Marvel is going to not necessarily reboot, but unleash a new line of comics and make Marvel Now 2.0, and also because I want to start covering stories along with covering characters, I'm going to be covering Civil War II. Now, I'm just going to cover issues 0 and 1, just so I can see if you guys actually want me to keep covering Civil War II, and if you just want me to cover other events like DC Rebirth or X-Men Apocalypse Wars. So as we get into the first issue, we see She-Hulk doing her job as a lawyer. Now, the case here is that a retired villain called the Jester was talking about basically the good old days of being a bad guy. The reason that Jester is in court, though, is because he was talking to an undercover agent and paid informant who were trying to entrap him. Now, She-Hulk gives a speech about free will, freedom of speech, and is really just giving readers a dose of her before the initial Civil War II conflict. So after this, we transition to War Machine, who is doing, military duties. He's stopping terrorists and keeping the area safe. We don't really know where or why or what they're doing. It doesn't really tie in anything else. Then we go to later, where he's speaking to the president in the White House Situation Room. And what the president says here is that the reason he wanted War Machine to be in the room was because he, of course, wanted absolute privacy, because he's about to drop some major stuff on him, I guess. So yeah. Now, the president wants War Machine to become the next Secretary of Defense. Now, while War Machine is surprised by this, the president drops another bomb on him when he says that it will be the first step to War Machine becoming the president himself. Now, what the president's argument, what the president says here is that eventually a superhero is going to run for president. And that one day Tony Stark is going to run for president himself, deciding that he should be president. And basically, he thinks that Tony Stark will just buy his way into presidency. Now, what the president also says here is that he would much rather be War Machine, a symbol of America, who works for the government, instead of it being, Tony Stark or whatever other superhero would want this type of position. So the president leaves it up to him, giving him the offer. After this, we go into Ohio State University, where a group of students are waiting for the terrigen mist cloud. Now, if you didn't know, a big theme of all New Different Marvel is that this giant wave of terrigen mist is spreading across the earth, and so a new character that we've never seen before, called Ulysses, is about to ask a girl named Michelle. Now, Michelle isn't going to really be important in this, but, he wants to ask a girl named Michelle out on a date before, of course, everyone pays attention to this giant terrigen mist cloud that reaches their campus. So what happens is that Ulysses and Michelle are both encased in terrigen pods, meaning that they will most likely become Inhumans. Next, we go Captain Marvel. Now, in all Ultimate Marvel, Carol Danvers is the leader of the Earth 616 Ultimates team, and the old Captain Marvel isn't really around anymore. Now, we see that Captain Marvel has a visitor at the base of the Ultimates, the Triskelion. Now, I see that the visitor is actually Doc Samson, and Doc Samson is an on-again, off-again associate of the Hulk and possesses a good amount of super strength, but nowhere on the Hulk level of super strength. So Captain Marvel talks to Doc Samson, and we see that she believes that they should stop disasters before they happen. Then we go back to She-Hulk, who arrives at the SHIELD helicarrier, and we see that She-Hulk meets up with Maria Hill. And we find out that the Jester was in fact killed in prison. Maria Hill basically says here that it doesn't matter because all villains, like the Jester, and all villains that do this, that retire, always end up going back to just being bad guys. They commit more crimes. We transition back to the college, and we see that when Ulysses is released from the Terrigen pod, he is bombarded with questions from news channels. Then, when Then, when the second terrigen pod breaks open, the one containing the girl named Michelle, she comes out this scary creature and basically kind of attacks people. But then Ulysses has his first futuristic vision, and he sees a destroyed city. Now, we're going to skip the tie-ins and go straight into Civil War II issue number 1. So, the issue starts off and we see Ulysses running away from the Inhumans, who have found him and are offering him help. Weeks later, we see that an army of superheroes are, in fact, fighting a Celestial. It starts off with all in all different Avengers, and then Thor arrives with the cavalry. Now, during this, we see some banter, we see fighting, and they eventually manage to make the Celestial return to the dimension from where it came from, of course. Now, after this, Tony Stark basically throws a party. So Tony Stark gives his speech while they're drinking and having fun. And War Machine and Tony have some comedic banter about how War Machine still has the same suit of armor that Tony had given him a while back. Then Captain Marvel asks Medusa how the Inhumans knew this was going to happen, because the Inhumans had, of course, told the Ultimates that this was going to happen. So, before and after, they discuss this. The Ultimates reveal Ulysses to the heroes, and then they have the young Jean Grey, the one from the past, use her telepathy to get a feel of how his visions work. But what we see here is that Ulysses' mind cannot be read. No one can see what he sees. So Captain Marvel immediately offers Ulysses a job on the Ultimates, but Tony Stark intervenes. Now, what Tony Stark says here is that they don't know Ulysses at all, and Captain Marvel is immediately offering him a position with her team. So Tony and Captain Marvel go back and forth, and then Steve Rogers tries to jump in, but Tony says that he is not getting in a morality debate with Steve, because that never ends well for the two of them. Now, this is just a nod towards the original Civil War crossover event comic, which, as you know, was a conflict between Iron Man and Steve Rogers' Captain America. So Tony walks out, and we fast forward to 3 weeks later, where Tony's working, and then Mary Jane Watson, who's working for Tony Stark right now, an Invincible Iron Man, tells him that War Machine is dead. Now, Tony immediately gets on a suit and storms into the Triskelion, and he soon talks to Carol, who is sitting next to a comatose She-Hulk. And all that Tony Stark asks is simply, what happened? Now, what Carol says is that Ulysses had a vision of Thanos committing a slaughter, so the Ultimates are contacted about this, and bringing War Machine and She-Hulk on the team, they attack Thanos. What happens with this fight is that they ambush him, and War Machine accidentally hits She-Hulk with a missile that was meant to harm Thanos, putting her in critical condition, and right after that, Thanos blasts a hole straight through War Machine. Well, more like punches a hole straight through War Machine's body. Eventually, the Ultimates were able to stop Thanos, but it doesn't feel like a victory, because they lost War Machine, and they might have lost She-Hulk. All we see here is that Tony still doesn't want to hear it. In his eyes, Carol and the Ultimates killed Rhodey with an unprovoked attack on Thanos. So Tony storms out, saying that he isn't going to let any of them play God again. Now She-Hulk wakes up and tells Carol, "It's our future, not his. Fight for it." Then She-Hulk seems to have died. Carol is pushed out of the way as doctors run in to try to help She-Hulk. Carol begins to cry, and Iron Man is on a mad dash to get to Ulysses, most likely. And with that being said, we're going to end the video off right here. So, yeah, Civil War II doesn't look too bad in the opening. There are some bigger problems, and it's pretty much because of Brian Michael Bendis. His writing, he's really not the best writer anymore. But the thing about Civil War II is that it is biased on one side, because that's the thing with having one writer on a crossover event like this. You can't, it just doesn't work like that. You should have one writer clearly on one side and another writer clearly on the other side, so you can get both writers, on the same basis. You don't feel like someone's a bad guy and someone's a good guy. Same with the original Civil War. I felt like, they were on the side of mainly Captain America. But anyways, guys, yeah, if you guys want me to keep covering stories like this, comment down below. I think the next Marvel story I'm gonna do a video on is X-Men, all new X-Men, and I'll have this. Yeah, maybe some DC Rebirth in the future too. If you guys like this video, leave a like, subscribe, comment, whatever, and I'll see you all later.